Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to episode 74 of the Sneider Cut. I am your exhausted but excited host, Jeff Sneider, senior film reporter at Collider.com. As you may have noticed, today is Friday. Yesterday kind of got away from me. I was in the middle of Scoop City. I was digging, and I just didn't have time to record the podcast, so I do apologize. Where should we begin? Geez, I was out of the office last Friday. I went up to New Hampshire for a little weekend getaway with my brothers because one of my brothers is getting married this summer. I don't know if he's going to be able to have a proper bachelor party. So we took him up to New Hampshire, up to Lake Winnipesaukee. I missed some big news that broke on Friday, but we're going to start with Black Superman. So it's my understanding, Ta-Nehisi Coates has been hired to write a new Superman movie that is going to be produced by J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot. I feel like this was all an inevitability, right? As soon as J.J. signed his big Warner Media deal, it only felt like a matter of time before he took over Superman. You don't hire Ta-Nehisi Coates to write a white Superman movie, right? So I think it is pretty clear that Warner Brothers wants to introduce a black Superman into the DCEU, or I don't know if this would sort of live on its own, or if this iteration of the character would sort of be integrated into the larger universe, if this is the Superman who ends up fighting, Black Adam or appearing in Shazam movies, whatever it is, I don't know. As far as the Michael B. Jordan of it all, listen, I think he's the most obvious choice, right? I think this guy, he looks the part. We're going to talk about the Without Remorse trailer, but he just looks jacked beyond belief, right? He has a history with Warner Brothers, whether it's, the Creed movies or Just Mercy. He's a huge movie star. It seems pretty simple. It's almost too obvious in a sense that it's him, but it also makes the most sense. Like, I think Aldous Hodge would really be quite good. I love what Aldous Hodge has been doing with his career the last few years. Whether it's City on a Hill or The Invisible Man or One Night in Miami. And he just has like this chest, this huge, broad, strapping chest that I could see the big S on. I could see him with a pair of glasses. Not that Clark Kent needs to be visually impaired or whatever. He would kind of get my vote, but at the same time, he's not quite as well known as Michael B. Jordan. And I'll be honest, I do think Michael B. Jordan is a better actor. That doesn't, it's not that Superman requires an actor with major dramatic chops or anything. I mean, look at who has played the character, but I don't know. I'd be fine with either one of those. I don't want John David Washington. I don't think that he would be the right fit for this. I just think it's encouraging that Warner Brothers is going this route and making one of its marquee characters diverse, because I think, I don't want to say that we haven't seen enough diversity in the DCU, but I definitely think that Marvel has sort of stolen its thunder with that regard. J.J. Abrams' Black Superman sounds good. Sign me up. Now, there was a rumor this week. There are a couple of rumors that the Illuminati dropped. One I had heard as well, and one that was kind of news to me, but the Illuminati, which is I've railed about on this podcast before as a site that may not check its information, sort of gets the information but doesn't confirm the information. So I don't know. You're gonna have to take these next two stories with a grain of salt. They reported that Disney is basically and Marvel are developing a new X-Men movie, which was inevitable, and I certainly have started to hear casting whispers here and there. But they said it's called The Mutants, which is interesting. I don't know if I love it, just because The Mutants sort of reminds me of New Mutants, and I don't think that they want to, you don't want to invoke that title if you're launching a new X-Men thing. I don't know why you wouldn't just do like an X-Men blank, whether like X-Men First Class, that was a reboot. Whether it's X-Men The New Generation or X-Men whatever the hell it is. I don't love The Mutants. I don't hate it. Again, it's just that it invokes the New Mutants for me. But yeah, I bet that they are starting to meet with writers and doing that, because that is certainly important to the future of the MCU. You know, we're going to get through Doctor Strange 2 and all these TV shows and all that stuff. But like, you know, what is the future? And it is the X-Men. It is Blade. It is properties like that. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe before summer we started to hear some firmer plans about the mutants, maybe for 2023, 2024, maybe even 2025. I don't know. Marvel certainly has a jam-packed slate coming up, although most of that, is really in television. The other story that the Illuminati dropped, which is something that I had heard, is that Ewan McGregor is going to be playing Obi-Wan in the Cassian Andor series. That's how they're sort of going to introduce him back. And I don't know if that's true. I'd heard it was like a recurring role. I mean, Ewan certainly seems like he's been getting ready. He's looking buff. I think he's been working out. And I think people assumed it was all in anticipation for his own series. But what if, he's actually going before the cameras a lot earlier? I wouldn't be shocked if that was the case. And I frankly think, Diego Luna, Cassian Andor series probably could use a little bit more juice, whether that's in the form of Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan or another, major character like that. So those are definitely two stories to keep an eye on. Not confirmed at this time, but something tells me that Ewan McGregor story feels right. The Golden Globes were Sunday night. Did you watch? Because nobody else did. I mean, the ratings were pretty horrible, right? And I don't know if that's just the fact that nobody wants to watch a Zoom award show, basically, or if it is the movies. I mean, I know that people haven't seen the movies this year because nobody went to the movies this year, but at the same time, almost all these movies are available on streaming, for the most part, at least. So you'd think that they'd actually have greater access to the movies. Either way, it was like the worst ratings in like 30 years. Had a very low share. I don't even know how many people watched. I think it was like 5 or 6 million or something like that, after last year had like 18. So yeah, like basically it was a fraction of the audience. I mean, to me, and I get wanting to, that these two are good award show hosts, right? And they provide some familiarity, a little bit of stability. They're old pros, and they have the kind of chemistry where they can host the show on opposite coasts, and you wouldn't even tell. Right? You couldn't even know. But I've seen Tina Fey and Amy Poehler host award shows a lot, or some company, whether it's just who's tuning in for this? Like, get somebody new. These two had sitcoms that were big hits a decade ago, Parks and Rec and 30 Rock. Like, who are the stars of the hot sitcoms of today? They should have been hosting. Somebody who makes you want to tune in for something that you haven't seen before. I don't understand why they keep going back to the Tina and Amy well. There are plenty of funny women who are capable of hosting the show. So I definitely think that the hosts had something to do with it. I think that they were a bad choice. I think that the production was generally pretty bad. I think that was sort of the consensus the following day. And the fact that, when the winner is giving a speech, the losers are still on screen having to sit there and smile in their living rooms for 60 to 90 seconds. Like, SAG at least has the right idea. I know that they don't have enough, don't have as many awards as the Golden Globes, but like SAG announces doing an hour-long award show. Boom, boom, boom. Here are the winners. Like, you can't pretend that everything is just normal. Kudos to the Golden Globes for ramping up in 3 hours, but I don't know. And there were some weird winners. I'm not going to say undeserving winners. Like, I haven't seen U.S. versus Billie Holiday, and I've heard nothing but good things about Andra Day. So congratulations to Andra Day, and I do think that she very well may get an Oscar nomination for that. Jodie Foster in The Mauritanian, like, I thought I liked The Mauritanian. I thought it was good. I thought she was good. But like winning the Golden Globe, like, who had that coming? I think on the Gurus of Gold, maybe one person predicted that. She was a 25-1 long shot. I know that because my old roommate bet, I think it was like $16 on her or something. He ended up winning like $400. Yeah, so some weird winners. I just don't think that there's any. We talked about this, by the way, on a unofficial episode of For Your Consideration that aired on Perry Nemiroff's YouTube channel. You can go and track it down. We talked about how, at least I did, how the Globes have no influence on the Oscars because they don't share a single voting member in common. Like it is just another big PR thing. No different than, this contender's on the cover of a magazine or wins an award at the Santa Barbara Film Festival or whatever. It's just another stop on the publicity campaign. But I just don't know if awards voters are actually swayed by that stuff or if they've become savvy enough to recognize these things for what they are. As far as all the controversies and stuff, like, how do you not know you don't have any black members? Like, there are people I think it was an Australian voter who gave an interview the next morning. Like, we don't even think about it. We didn't even think about it. Like, I don't know, man. Like, if I'm sitting in a room of 87 people and I'm looking around, there's no black people. I just don't see how that represents, the full scope of things. But at the same time, the requirements of membership are very arcane. Like, you have to be writing for a foreign publication. So right off the bat, how many foreign publications like writing about film and airing, celebrity entertainment content from America, how many are there of those? Sorry. You have to be living in Los Angeles. So like, it's tough enough being an entertainment journalist because it pays nothing. I'd like to think I'm one of the bigger entertainment journalists, and like, I consider myself very underpaid. So it's like, if you don't have a huge name for yourself, right, then you're just like freelancing pieces. It's tough to live in Los Angeles, and that's the only way you can have membership. So I get that it's a very narrow sort of definition in terms of the requirements. I do think that the HFPA needs to, do outreach or whatever. But again, it comes back on the editors of these foreign publications because they're the ones who need to hire you. And then once you're hired, then you can go to the MPA to apply for membership. I mean, the HFPA rarely accepts new members to begin with. Some of these people have been in the organization for 20, 30 years. They write for publications no one's heard of. No one reads their stuff. No one knows who these people are. But you know who does know who they are? All of Hollywood. Okay, so when everyone throws up their hands and is just indignant, oh my God, the LA Times says you don't have any black members? What? They all knew this. They knew because they're the ones going to these press conferences and doing the cocktail hours with the HFPA, and they see that there's no black members. So why do they continue to play the game? And I'll tell you why. It's because awards and money trump all these things. I'm telling you, like, this is a fake, phony baloney town, and it's fake outrage because they all knew, and they've known for years, I promise you. All right, we'll move along from the Golden Globe stuff because there's a lot of scoopy stuff to talk about. Pinocchio, for starters, announced its cast, or I think The Wrap broke most of this, but Cynthia Erivo is going to be doing the Blue Fairy, who is traditionally depicted as this white blonde woman. So I kind of love, like, why does she need to be white blonde? Are there no black fairies? Like, I think that's very cool that Cynthia Erivo was cast as the Blue Fairy. What's even cooler is Joseph Gordon-Levitt voicing Jiminy Cricket. I mean, it's like perfect casting. Like, between that and then Tom Hanks as Geppetto, like, I feel like Zemeckis and Disney know exactly what they want here. They're on the same page. Joseph Gordon-Levitt gives off big Jiminy Cricket energy. Like, I so badly wanted to use this photo of JGL from the night before where he's an elf and he's like, because that's just how I imagine Jiminy Cricket in my head. Like, this guy who's just like ready to sing and dance with his top hat and cane or whatever at a moment's notice. Keegan-Michael Key is going to be voicing Honest John, and then Lorraine Bracco is going to be voicing somebody the Seagull. I don't know what the hell the name was. I don't have it in front of me. And that's a new character. They're like, I love it. We're going to create a new character in Pinocchio, and who's it going to be? Lorraine Bracco. She does have, one of those great kind of gravelly voices. A lot of character there. So I like the way Pinocchio's headed. They also cast a little boy, as the voice of Pinocchio or whatever. So it sounds like Blue Fairy, Erivo, and Hanks will be live action because it's a live action movie. And the rest of the characters will be sort of, CGI or whatever the hell. And now the Lorraine Bracco thing is kind of funny because yesterday I broke a big story. I chimed in on the Slack and I was like, hey, Liz Shannon Miller, who you know from the Schmoedown, she's the TV editor at Collider. I go, Liz, have they announced who's playing Hillary Clinton in Impeachment American Crime Story? And she's like, no, I don't think that they have. And in fact, I wasn't even sure if Hillary was going to be part of the series or not. And then I think that they did indicate at one point that she is, but it's going to be a very small role. I'm not so sure that's true anymore because you don't cast Edie Falco in a small role. But let's back up. So, anyways, I've got this scoop. I say, okay, they haven't announced it yet. Okay, because I think I know who she is. She's the star of the greatest TV show ever. And someone in the Slack goes, wow, big week for Lorraine Bracco. I was like, oh, you were so close. You had the right show, just the wrong actress. I cannot see Lorraine Bracco, by the way, as Hillary Clinton. But it is Edie Falco, who won 3 Emmys as Carmela Soprano, 2 Golden Globes, and picked up a 4th Emmy for her turn as Nurse Jackie on Showtime. Kind of perfect casting, right? I mean, everyone loved this. It was very well received yesterday. I'd like to think. So I, call some people who I think might know, reach out for that confirmation on the initial tip, and I got it. And at that point, it's like, okay, this is true. So I'm gonna post it. That's my job. I post true news. Also, the last time I had emailed FX about a American Crime Story casting that still has not been announced, and I was emailing in September, so this is 6 months ago, and I never got a response. So this time, I just wrote FX, and I'm like, listen, I never heard back from you on the last one. Now I'm just posting this one because I heard it's true. Happy to update after the fact if you have any comments, and we posted the story. And of course, FX, understandably, was upset. I imagine a lot of other TV reporters had heard this information and were holding it, which is what I want to sort of talk about today. So, I mean, the nature of film and TV reporting is just wildly different. And the film side is just the wild, wild west. We are ruthless motherfuckers on the film side. We will stab each other in the back. There is still a code of honor, and we do still get along from time to time. It all depends on what it is and who got to the story first and who feels ownership of it or whatever. But it's also like, okay, you have to acknowledge, and I told this to Amazon, I told this to Netflix in recent weeks, HBO, everybody, okay? Because I've been breaking news the last few weeks. I have a fire lit under my ass. And I say, these people who have this information and they're holding it, they have to be aware that they're taking a risk, that by holding it, some asshole like me could come in and report it because it's true. So like Nellie, Leslie, and Hollywood Reporter, they all have to understand that if you're going to do the studio's bidding by waiting, you're taking a risk that someone is not going to wait. They're just going to report the truth. So I just don't feel terrible. I don't want to just talk about the conversation that I've had with some of these publicists, but it's like, they talk about this honor code and this gentleman's code, and it's like, do you think that there's honor among thieves? Because that's what my job is. It is to steal your secrets in the middle of the night. Do you think that when Nellie at Deadline is about to drop a scoop that she thinks, hey, wait, I wonder, is Jeff Sneider tracking this? Trust me, they don't think about that stuff. They don't give a fuck about me. And likewise, I don't give a fuck about them. I'm just there to report the news. If it's true and I get the confirmation, it's going on the internet, folks. And you know what? If you don't like it, right? If you don't want to compete with me, hire me, I don't know what else to tell these trades. Because, it's just like they are so wrapped around the fingers of these networks, and they only report when the network tells them it's okay. And it's crazy. That's not news. You're not being a journalist if that is how you want to operate. So, yeah, anyways, Edie Falco, Hillary Clinton. I think it's great. I can't wait for this show because I loved both iterations of American Crime Story going, the previous iterations, the OJ one, the Versace one. And this sounds really good too. I mean, this is something I lived through, like those. I mean, I love that they're kind of doing like the 90s as well with this series. And I kept, I did FX a favor, I thought, because I kept 5 or 6 other names out of the story. I figured, okay, if I was a reporter at Deadline or Hollywood Reporter and this got jacked from me, which it probably did, I'd at least want some kind of make good. So I left FX 5 or 6 names to distribute the make goods. And you could say, here's 2 names for you, Deadline, and here's 2 names for you, Hollywood Reporter, and that's how it's going to fucking be. But yeah, Edie Falco's Hillary Clinton, you think I'm going to hold that story? What are you, insane? No, it was everywhere within 2 hours yesterday. I followed that up with a big scoop about Nimona. Now, BuzzFeed News, I got to hand it to them. They did a really good job reporting this story out when it was announced a few weeks ago that Disney would be shutting down Connecticut-based animation studio Blue Sky. BuzzFeed did a really good job. Basically said, the movie was 75% done. There were still 10 months of production left, which is what my sources backed up as well. And 10 months of production, like that's still a good chunk. That's not cheap, especially if, when you're doing like technologically advanced animation, which this is said to have been. With the help of my editor-in-chief, Steve Weintraub, aka Frosty, we got the voice cast confirmed. And so Nimona would have been voiced by Chloe Grace Moretz, who actually, I think she recorded about half of her lines. And then Ballister Blackheart, who is, sort of the villain of the piece, although I don't know that is actually the case, he would have been voiced by Riz Ahmed. And that's a pretty good voice cast, I think, Chloe and Riz. Now, what's important about all this is that Nimona was going to be the first full-length LGBTQ-friendly Disney movie, right? Because Ballister and then the supposed hero of the story share a romantic history, and they at one point even say "I love you" to each other, and they share a same-sex kiss. So obviously that would have been a big deal, in the annals of Disney animation history. So it's unfortunate that the movie has, that they had to shut down. I mean, basically Disney announced it on February 9th and said by April, Blue Sky will be no more. I've been laid off from jobs. I'm not talking about the jobs I got fired from, like from Variety and from The Wrap. I was laid off from Tracking Board, and I've been laid off from Variety as well. And, it sucks. It's not fair because you didn't do anything wrong. So I'd love to see somebody swoop in and rescue this movie. I don't know what the price tag is on something like that. You would think that one of these streamers would be eager to compete in the animated space with Disney Plus. And then this would sort of go a long way. It's just like, it sounded like an important movie that really did have the possibility to change kids' lives. And so the fact that, they got this far only to pull the plug, that kind of sucks. At the same time, it's a business, and Disney has had a tough time, not a tough time, but they've had to weather the storm, right? They don't have their theme parks open around the world, or the cruise lines and stuff like that. And earlier this week, it was reported that they're going to be shutting down 60 of their Disney stores in North America. So I get it. The financial reality of things is they didn't buy Fox for Blue Sky, and they can't financially sustain 3 animation studios. Like, you're paying for Pixar, Disney Animation Studios. Now you're going to do Blue Sky as well. It just doesn't make sense. So, I do think that, Universal has Illumination, Warner's has Warner Animation or whatever. Even Sony has Sony Animation. But does Paramount need them? Maybe. I know Paramount Animation, they have a unit as well. But Blue Sky seems, maybe a little bit more talented and experienced than at least some of the units that these studios have. What else do I want to say about Nimona? It just, I guess I really don't have anything else to say about it. I don't know. It sounds like Blue Sky leadership is still continuing to explore its options. But there haven't been any takers yet. I don't know if there's been an offer on the table or anything. So we'll see. Stay tuned. Hopefully yesterday's story gets picked up by more outlets and people start to get excited about it. Maybe a streamer picks up on that excitement and does something about it and rides to the rescue. Okay, a bunch of like news briefs and stuff. There was a Terminator anime series announced from Mattson Tomlin, writer of the Batman. Mattson Tomlin, man, this guy came out of nowhere. I don't think I knew his name 18 months ago. Now he's writing half of the biggest properties in town. I dig the idea of a Terminator anime series. Like the live action stuff, even though I did like the last movie with Mackenzie Davis for the most part. Did I? I forget. I got to think about that. I can see a Terminator anime series working quite well. Tomb Raider, the showrunner Tasha Huo writing a Red Sonja movie. This is one of those properties that I'm sure that we've discussed, like, a Buck Rogers, or it's just, I don't understand this. Who cares? Who cares about Red Sonja? This is like this is like C-list comic book stuff. Pass. Rachel Zegler, right? She booked the Shazam sequel. I'm surprised it took this long for the young star of West Side Story to book a big follow-up. She seems adorable and talented, and she really has taken off as a kind of like social media celebrity. I just see a lot of people. She seems to have a lot of fans, sight unseen. She's just very charming online. So. Probably a nice get for her and for the Shazam sequel, because who knows, she could blow up off of West Side Story. Rege-Jean Page, the guy who was in Bridgerton and hosted SNL, last week or 2 weeks ago, and like he's everywhere all of a sudden. Everybody wants to be in business with Rege-Jean Page. He signed on to the Dungeons and Dragons movie last week, and this week it was The Gray Man, the Russo brothers movie with Chris Evans and Ryan Gosling. That movie also added Billy Bob Thornton and Alfre Woodard, and they have a hell of a cast there for what is shaping up to be Netflix's most expensive movie ever, even though I don't fully trust the streamer's math on The Irishman. Right. Okay. What else we talked about Dungeons and Dragons adding Rege-Jean Page. It also added Hugh Grant and Sophia Lillis. What a weird cast this is shaping up to be. I just not really sensing the cohesion here. It's just kind of like a random selection of names that are kind of have some heat behind them. And besides, you really couldn't pay me enough to see a Dungeons and Dragons movie. Jodie Comer. Cast as the female lead, or she's Ridley Scott's choice, as if Ridley Scott doesn't get his choices. The only way that this wouldn't happen is if it conflicted with filming on Killing Eve, which is obviously in first position. But Jodie Comer just worked with Ridley Scott on The Last Duel, and now she's going to be Josephine Bonaparte, the Napoleon's wife. Napoleon obviously played by Joaquin Phoenix in this movie Kitbag, which is not a good title for a Napoleon movie. Also, Josephine was like 5 or 6 years older than Napoleon in real life, and Jodie Comer is nearly 20 years younger than Joaquin Phoenix. Welcome to Hollywood, folks. That's how it's done. Steve Weintraub Frosty did a big interview with Gore Verbinski. If you haven't noticed, it has been Gore Verbinski week on Collider. It was like a 2-hour interview. And so Steve managed to get a lot out of him, including news of this movie, Sandkings, which is in development at Netflix. I had never heard of Sandkings before. It's based on a novelette, not a short story, but not quite a novel, from George R.R. Martin. And it sounded awesome. I'm not like a sci-fi guy. I'm definitely not like a George R.R. Martin guy, but this sounded fucking cool. It's like basically that this rich asshole, and he collects like dangerous exotic animals. And so he goes into this store for one of these things. I'm just like picturing Gremlins, right? And he gets shown like this terrarium, and inside the terrarium are these 4 species of creatures. Or they're all the same species. They're Sandkings, but they're into factions. So one's like black, white, red, and orange, or whatever it is. And these are very intelligent creatures. And, he essentially becomes their god. And then they are, these colonies are made up of like the queen, like the maw, and then, all the little worker insects that do her bidding and find her food and forage for her and hunt and battle, to bring her food. And they erect these castles around her made of sand to protect her. And then they decorate the castles with visions of this rich asshole, right? Because he has sort of become their god. But the thing about these creatures is that they inhabit any, whatever their enclosure sort of is. So when they get out of the terrarium, right, then they're in this guy's house. Now they're as big as the house, So, and obviously things just get out of hand, and he has to keep like feeding them more and more stuff, maybe even people. It sounds fucking cool. So Gore Verbinski is going to direct this thing. George R.R. Martin, source material. Dennis Kelly, who created Utopia, the original British series, he's going to write the script. I really hope that this comes to fruition, because I would really like to see this on Netflix. It sounds really cool. My girl, Lena Dunham. You love her or you hate her. I love her. I was a big Girls fan. She just wrapped her first movie in a decade, her first directorial effort, because she broke out on the scene with Tiny Furniture. It's called Sharp Stick. It features Scott Speedman and Taylor Page and Johnny Bernthal. And I don't think that like there weren't like a ton of plot details or whatever. I think you can kind of guess the kind of movie that this is, an indie rom-com. I think you know what Lena's all about at this point, right? I'm just excited to see her step behind the camera, because I think with Lena it was like a case of too much too soon. And I don't know if it went to her head or if it went to everyone else's sort of fury, because like there was this backlash against her. Like, she was sort of anointed. The publicists were pushing, this is the voice of a generation. And then the media picks up on that. And then everyone else is like, well, wait a second. I didn't ask her to speak for me. She's not the voice of my generation. And then, you get this backlash or whatever. I don't think Lena was trying to cultivate that for herself or ask for that. I like Lena, and I know she's had her own struggles for some health scares or whatever. I wish her well, and I'm glad that she's getting back on the horse. Amazon announced a G.I. Joe series. Pass. This is like what a fucking B-C franchise in this industry is G.I. Joe. I don't care. I used to love G.I. Joe as a kid. Like I've clearly outgrown this stuff. No. Nope. Pass. If I was an Amazon executive, I wouldn't even. You couldn't even make it past the pitch on that. Like this is just one of those like craven, like, a piece of IP. People know G.I. Joe. People watch a G.I. Joe show. Like Amazon loves this kind of stuff, whether it's fucking Tom Clancy or Jack Bryan or Jack Reacher. I mean, they love it all. It's really something. That's sort of their bread and butter. Appealing to the white guys, the straight white guys who like military stuff. That's why we're doing a fucking Bosch spinoff. We're bringing back Titus Welliver. Oh man. Christian Bale and Scott Cooper reteaming for The Pale Blue Eye. They did Out of the Furnace and Hostels. I like the two of them working together. Yeah, I don't really have. I'm just gonna like list off a bunch of these fucking projects. George Clooney and Julia Roberts reteamed on Ticket to Paradise. How real are these sort of EFM projects that get announced and then they linger for a year or two and then inevitably someone else steps in. I mean, I love Clooney and Julia together from the Ocean's movies, and would like to see them do something outside of that franchise. But Ticket to Paradise sounded very kind of generic. Yeah, like Sean Penn and Ty Sheridan doing Black Flies, Shailene Woodley and Anthony Mackie and Jacob Lattimore doing Panopticon. It's stuff like that that's just like they've been trying to make these types of movies for years, and they always seem to pop up at various festival markets. Kalinda Vasquez tapped to write a new Star Trek movie that will also be produced by J.J. Abrams. God forbid, we kick Bad Robot off the Star Trek franchise. They've just done such a good job with it. Listen, this franchise is fucking cooked. What do you want me to say? This thing belongs on Paramount Plus. They seem to be doing a good job with all the various TV shows and whatnot. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. I hope that Kalinda Vasquez is writing just like a completely new take on Star Trek with that would incorporate a new cast, because this cast is donezo. It's toast. Okay. Come on, Chris Pine and Zoe Saldana and Zachary Quinto, like they had their chance. They did 3 movies. First one was pretty good. I didn't love the end of that movie. The second one, where he started doing Benedict Cumberbatch and the con stuff, that's where it sort of lost me. And the third movie was awful. I don't know who is defending Star Trek Beyond at this point. So yeah, I hope that she just does her own thing, and she's apparently named after a Star Trek character, so this was kind of her destiny all along. Congratulations, very cool. Ronaldo Marcus Green doing a Bob Marley movie for Paramount. Yeah, sure, I dig this. This seems like a good hire to me. He just did the King Richard movie about Venus and Serena's dad, and you know what, Bob Marley, that could be a cool biopic. That's not just like the same old fucking biopic, right? Bob Marley, he's got some great songs too. Like just the songs that they listed in the Deadline article, I was like, wow, I actually know all these songs. Like when they're announcing $100 million Robbie Williams biopic where he's going to be played by a monkey or something, like I can't name a Robbie Williams song off the top of my head. If I heard one, maybe I could sing along. But fucking Bob Marley and the Wailers, that would be pretty chill. Ross and Marshall Thurber stepping in for David Leitch on The Division. This is one that Steve and I broke as well. The Division is like this big video game adaptation, right? Netflix has been working on it for like 4 or 5 years now, I feel like. Jake Gyllenhaal and Jessica Chastain are going to star. And so when I broke the news, it was funny. A lot of people were disappointed. David Leitch is stepping down. I really wanted him to do this video game movie with Jake. I mean, he's still going to produce. So I think that you're going to get the best of both worlds. But like, obviously anytime you lose a director, people are going to ask, oh, what happened? Blah, 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 blah. Leitch is obviously known for his action scenes, his action sequences, and he's very, very talented in that regard. Having said that, you look at the movies that he's done, besides the original John Wick, which he co-directed, but like fucking Deadpool 2, Hobbs and Shaw, Atomic Blonde, no. I will take Rosson's filmography over those movies any day, whether that's the comedies We're the Millers and Dodgeball or Skyscraper and Central Intelligence. Yeah, I think Rosson is a better director than David Lynch. David Lynch may be more proficient with action sequences, but who knows? We haven't seen Red Notice yet. I mean, that is a huge Netflix movie with The Rock and Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot. So I feel like if they are, like Netflix must like what it sees from that movie to be giving him The Division, right? And I think that you will get the best of both worlds. Maybe you'll get Rosson's ability, to tell a fucking story that makes sense, combined with David Leitch's action prowess, and that would be cool. Speaking of John Wick, Derek Kolstad, the creator of John Wick, is adapting the action horror manga Hellsing for Amazon. I don't know much about it, but yeah, Derek Kolstad, man, he is busy as hell too. Everybody wants him writing their action stuff. David Oyelowo joins Gugu Mbatha-Raw in The Girl Before on HBO Max. That actually sounded kind of interesting. I know that's a big best-selling book. It's like Gugu gets a chance to move into this incredible dream home, but if she's gonna go live there, I think it's for a month or however long it is, she has to abide by the rules of the home's architect, played by David Oyelowo. That sounds like it could be interesting. We get so many of these fucking white people limited series, right? You can name it, whether it's The Undoing, Big Little Lies, So what's the other fucking one? The flight attendant, like, okay, let's see like what a black version of these big limited series would look like. Austin Butler and Callum Turner booked the leads in Masters of the Air. This is one of those stories that I was holding for a while because I'm not a total asshole. I can play ball when when the situation calls for it. And anyways, they decided to announce that on Friday when I was not in the office, and naturally no one else at Collider thought it was a big deal, so we just didn't do the story. This is the next band of brothers. Austin Butler and Callum Turner may not be the biggest names in the world, but they are definitely rising stars, up and coming actors. Austin Butler is stars as Elvis in the Baz Luhrmann movie. So I thought it should have been covered. I'm holding one other name on that show. And I'm looking forward to seeing like the veterans who they sort of call in. I mean, it's mostly young guys, obviously, just like Band of Brothers. But there's got to be some commanding officers and whatnot. But that's from like Spielberg and Cary Fukunaga, and I think that's going to be a pretty big show for Apple, if Apple can even have big shows. I mean, does anybody watch Apple? I mean, it just feels like, if you buy a phone or a computer, okay, you got a 1 year subscription, but once that 1 year subscription is up, is anybody actually paying for subscriptions? I don't really get the feeling that they are. Just like I'm talking like just about general people, not like the people who are obsessed, rabid film and television fans. We'll see. Rebel Wilson, I don't know if I did some of these things last week. It's all a blur. Thanks to that weekend in New Hampshire. Rebel Wilson booked the Paramount Players comedy Senior Year, where she's going to be playing a cheerleader who falls into a coma and wakes up 20 years later and goes back to school to become the prom queen or whatever it is. I mean, that sounds right up her alley. And I like Rebel Wilson. Even though some of the stuff that she's done lately, I didn't bother seeing that one with Anne Hathaway. And then the rom-com that everybody loved, with Liam Hemsworth, that was just okay. Borderlands cast Ariana Greenblatt, who played young Gamora, as Tiny Tina. Right? I like how that Borderlands movie is coming along from Eli Roth. Giovanna Depo joined Babylon, Damien Chazelle's movie. Deadline did not reveal his role. That's another story. That's another piece of casting I've been holding for ages. I'm pretty sure he's going to be playing a trumpeter, if I'm not mistaken. J. Smith Cameron from Succession joined BJ Novak's movie Vengeance. That's over at Blumhouse. Robert Duvall and Garrett Hedlund were cast in Ed Harris's new movie, The Plowman. Allison Janney, Andy Murphy, and Ben Platt to star in the People We Hate at the Wedding. From Set It Up. Helmer Claire Scanlon. Sounded like every other family movie around a wedding I've ever seen. Jennifer Coyle and Leah Matsuda directing the Hello Kitty movie for New Line. Remind me to skip that one. I mean, maybe I'll see some of these movies now that my niece is getting a little bit older. She may be going to movies in the next 2 years or whatever. Who knows how long I'll be home, how long it'll take to get a vaccine here. But yeah, like when people are like, Jeff, how have you not seen the Harry Potter movies? I'm like, I'm saving those for 5 years down the line to watch with my niece. I think we talked about the Mike Tyson Iron Mike series from Hulu last week, but just in case, Margot Robbie's executive producing a Mike Tyson series. I do believe John Boyega was actually offered the lead role in that and turned it down. Much like I heard Nick Jonas turn down the lead in a spinoff of The Boys, that one that's like set at college or whatever. Which was probably a good call for Nick Jonas. Ray Liotta joined Taron Egerton and Paul Walter Hauser in Apple's series In with the Devil, which I'm looking forward to because that's like about a criminal who has to sort of go on not undercover, but like go on death row to sort of extract a confession from another prisoner. We got a bunch of like release date stuff. Bros, the Billy Eichner movie. I almost said Billie Eilish because that's coming up. But yeah, the Billy Eichner movie Bros, which has been in the works forever from Nick Stoller, that is on the calendar now for August 2022. I'm glad they're finally moving ahead with that because I think we do need a gay romantic comedy, and Billy Eichner is the perfect person to star in it. A bunch of release date stuff. So Universal pushed back F9. God, I hate that title. They pushed back F9 1 month from May to June. And they pushed back Minions: The Rise of Gru from July to next July. So that one got a 1 month delay, one got a 1 year delay. And now F9 is opening the same day as Venom 2, which doesn't sound like a good idea for Venom 2. Venom 2 is almost certainly going to move. Venom was a big hit. It definitely overperformed, but you don't take on a $5 billion franchise, one that's adding John Cena or anything. So yeah, I expect Venom 2 to move, but stick around the summer. We're starting to see things reopening. Vaccines are hopefully happening a lot quicker. And yeah, we're starting to see New York reopen theaters. Alamo Drafthouse filed for bankruptcy and is going to be shutting down some locations, but the others are still operating. Paramount moved up A Quiet Place 2 to Memorial Day, which is like ambitious. It's like this scramble to be first now. People are ready to. Well, I'll tell you what it really is. I think it's really about Paramount needs some prime content on Paramount Plus. But they don't just want to break the window. They don't want to be Warner Brothers and just go day and date. So the sooner that they can release A Quiet Place 2 and feel like they can make some money, because those movies are relatively cheap, I feel like. As soon as they feel like they can make some money at the box office, and I think the performance of Tom and Jerry last week was encouraging for them, then the sooner that they can put that movie out on the service. So I think that they said it's going to be 45 days. So if it's opening end of May, by mid-July, you're going to have a big movie, A Quiet Place 2, available to stream on Paramount Plus. And I think that's what they wanted. They didn't want to just make it debut there because they're still committed to theatrical. But yeah, I think that's sort of what is behind that. I love Deadline's story about the Billie Eilish documentary being the biggest hit among young adults on the Apple service. Oh, what a hit it was. What are the other YA shows available and stuff like that on Apple? Isn't it like just Dickinson? Like, what else do they have that's really aimed at teenagers? Don't tell me it's The Banker or On the Rocks. So really what you're telling me is that Billie Eilish is more popular with today's teens than Emily Dickinson. Whoa, shocker. You got to be fucking kidding me. I wouldn't write up if any streaming service came to me and said, hey, this was a huge hit for us. And then they didn't give me any numbers or any context or anything. They just said, oh, trust us, it was big. There's no way I'm running that fucking story. This is public relations. And frankly, I thought Deadline should have been embarrassed for running it. You're not going to hear me weigh in on Coming to America or Farrow versus Allen because I really don't care about either of those things. Coming to America, I was never a big Coming to America guy. It was released when I was just a little kid. It wasn't something that me and my friends grew up quoting as teenagers beyond, maybe watching the Royal Penis line. Eddie Murphy, I think it's just quite clear. Eddie Murphy is not the same Eddie Murphy that he was in the 80s. And I just don't really fucking care. And the reviews were pretty mixed. There were some people who were like, oh yeah, I watched the original recently and it held up and this carries on that tradition. I understand it's a very different movie. It's PG-13. The humor is different. Maybe there's more heart, more family stuff, but none of the ads, none of the campaign did anything for me. Farrow versus Allen just seems like a biased piece of activism, not journalism. Did something happen in that attic? Maybe. I don't want to deny Dylan Farrow's feelings about what happened to her. I believe her to an extent, but it also, these events happened a long, long time ago. It does seem like, memory can play tricks on us. But I just think without facts, right, it's a he said, she said kind of thing. And I don't know, from what I understand about this documentary, anytime Woody Allen's on screen, like they use like the dark music to paint the idea this is a bad man, and they're giving this sort of negative context to all these home videos. I just that doesn't seem legit to me, and I just don't want to watch it. I don't want to be in that space for 4 hours and relitigate these events where at the end I don't really think I'm going to know that much more than I did going in. Paramount Plus launched today. I haven't downloaded it. The launch is being ripped apart on Twitter. They're saying it's basically CBS All Access, which was a mess, with new branding. Like nothing. It's on one hand, you expect people to pay for this stuff like starting today, then be ready today, right? On the other, no one's going to have their ducks lined up in a row on day one. I think that was sort of proven by HBO Max. And, we do have to be patient and give these streamers time. Like they didn't have time to waste. And so they sort of just rush it up there. We got to have a streaming product. Like, let's just go, launch it. When they could have just waited, till after A Quiet Place 2 had come out or whatever it is. But yeah, it sounds like it's a mess and it's going to take some time to find its footing. Don't really have any movies to review. I watched one new movie this weekend and I could talk about it on social, but I want to give it a rewatch before I say anything about it. So we'll check back in next week on that one, or I'm not sure when the embargo lifts on it. Trailers. Without Remorse, we got a trailer for. That's the Michael B. Jordan movie. I thought this looked really good. This is from Stefano Sollima, who did the Sicario sequel. I thought was pretty good. Yeah, I mean, listen, this could go either way. This could be the Amazon. I don't really know what I'm trying to say about this Without Remorse. I thought it looked good. I like the cast. I like Michael B. Jordan, Jamie Bell, Guy Pearce. The only thing that didn't work for me, I think it's Jodie Turner-Smith, who's early in the trailer, this guy is the most deadly soldier we have. He's the craziest. I just didn't buy it coming out of her mouth. That's the sort of line that in the mid-90s you would hear coming out of the mouth of a Willem Dafoe type or some old white guy who knows everyone in the service and how deadly they are. And maybe Jodie Turner-Smith possesses that knowledge, but it sounded kind of silly coming out of her mouth. But great ending to that trailer with him, putting gasoline all over the guy's car and lighting it on fire. And we're like, oh, he's going to blow this car up, or he's trying to smoke this guy out. No, he fucking goes and gets inside the burning car, which could explode at any moment. It's like, give me a fucking name. Good stuff from Michael B. Army of the Dead. I forget if we talked about that one, but it looked good. I like the kind of purple color scheme that they're going for with that one. Yeah, it was a cool trailer. Just a fun zombie movie from Zack Snyder. I'm definitely more excited for that than the Sneider Cut, though believe me, I am still going to check out the Sneider Cut. Other trailers, there were some good ones. The Serpent, the Tahar Rahim show on Netflix. That's been on my Netflix queue, my preview content row for a couple of weeks, and I've been intrigued, but I never quite pulled the trigger and watched it. And now I'm going to, because I thought that trailer made it look really good. It's about a con man / serial killer, or who got, I don't know if he's actually a serial killer or he's, gets wrapped up in some serial killings or whatever. But either way, looked like a Narcos type of show with some international flavor. Tahar Rahim's a great actor too. The nomination he got for the Mauritanian was well deserved. I loved him in A Prophet. I loved him in The Looming Tower. The guy's fucking talented. Shudder released a trailer for Slacks, which is about a pair of killer pants. It was totally ridiculous. I kind of loved it. It looked, I heard this was at Fantasia and that the movie maybe didn't live up to its premise, but it still looked like a blast to me. And yeah, I'm just looking for a gory 77-minute movie. That sounds fun. We've seen, this is becoming a subgenre of its own, right? Between Quentin Dupieux's movie, Rubber, Killer Tire, Deerskin, Killer Jacket, In Fabric. That's not Quentin, but a Killer Dress. I like these killer inanimate object movies. But again, same thing with this one as Without Remorse, okay? And my female colleagues at Collider said the same thing. This trailer goes into, it uses like a female voiceover, like narrator at the end, and it sounds way off. Doesn't sound good. I don't want to say women shouldn't be like the trailer voiceover people, because that's like obviously horribly sexist, but I really haven't heard like a woman do it great. I mean, obviously men and women sound differently. But yeah, I don't know. I need regular old trailer guy. It was a weird voiceover. Calls, the Apple trailer. This is a weird trailer, a weird idea, but it's based on this French format from Fede Alvarez. Well, he directed this Apple English language remake, and it's just like you're looking at screensaver stuff, and it's like these weird abstract visuals that force you to pay attention to the audio because it's an auditory mystery. It's got a great cast. I'm just curious how long these short form episodes are. Like, are these 15, 20-minute episodes, or is this like a 45-minute thing? Because that's a long fucking call, right? But it sounds interesting, literally. Operation Varsity Blues, we got a trailer for. That looks like a really interesting, I think it's a Netflix, I want to say, docuseries about the college admissions scandal. I've just been very interested in that, and my old pal Nicole Laporte, who I was her intern at Variety, or an intern at Variety when she was a big Variety reporter. Now she's become a big, Fast Company reporter and author. She has a book called Guilty Admissions that is out now, and she's like doing the press rounds. It's so cool to see Nicole, thriving like this. I do want to pick up her book, but if I don't, I can always just watch this Operation Varsity Blues series. Okay, what else? All right, before we get to mailbag stuff, which will close the show, and I just want to do a couple congratulations and stuff. Congratulations to my pal Jairo Alvarado on forming Redefine Entertainment. He's always just been, one of the best managers who really has a great idea about the future of this business. So it's great to see him launching his own shop. Congrats to my pal JD Lifshitz and his Boulder Light Pictures. They signed with Range Media Partners, the big hot new management company this week. Congrats to Luke Rivet, another manager pal who got John Hamm to star in his indie movie Corner Office that he's going to be producing. So I just love when good things happen to good people. And I would also recommend reading my pal Isaac Feldberg's piece on Minari over at Paste Magazine. It's a piece that I think meant a lot to him, and he really wrote it from the heart. So check it out. All right, we've got mailbag questions from Sam Streak. With St. Patrick's Day happening in Ireland soon, my question is, do you think there are any Irish actors or movies that are over or underrated? Personally, I'm not a huge Neeson guy, which I'm aware is blasphemy over here. Irish actors that are over or underrated? I mean, no, I like the Irish. I think Colin Farrell is properly rated, maybe even a little underrated, because I do like when he actually gets a chance to act, like in Killing of a Sacred Deer or even The Gentleman. I'm a Neeson guy. I just think Neeson does something very, very well. And I watched Honest Thief recently, and it was worth a $4 or $5 rental, whatever it was. But yeah, I don't have a long list here in front of me. I don't know if you guys, I don't know if you want me to like research these mailbag questions or like just read it, because I don't read them until right now on the show. I kind of like doing it off the top of my head. Will Drajulis asks, hey Jeff, I was curious if you heard anything about Mel Gibson's The Wild Bunch remake or David Ayer's The Dirty Dozen remake, and best of luck with your Schmoedown match against Dan Murrell. Yeah, that is tonight. I'm a little nervous. No, I really haven't heard much about the Wild Bunch or The Dirty Dozen. I think I heard that one of those attachments didn't hold up. I don't know if it was like Fassbender falling out of Wild Bunch or something. I don't know. I'd have to like go into the archives, and I'm not really in the mood to do that, Will. But I'll email you if I see anything. Just keep it under wraps. Ross Gluck says, John M. Chu is reportedly shell-shocked by WB's HBO Max decision because he made In the Heights with the theatrical experience in mind. But last week it was announced that he would be directing the Great Chinese Art Heist for Warner Brothers, which makes it seem like the two parties have reconciled. Do you think this is a good sign that WB will make amends with Nolan or Villeneuve, or are those relationships forever tainted? That is a good question. First of all, I don't think John Chu is Chris Nolan, or even Denis Villeneuve. Even though I think In the Heights looks good and could be a gigantic hit for them. As far as whether they reconciled, I don't know that they were ever at each other's throats. I think he was probably disappointed by the business decision, but at the end of the day, it's a business decision. You have to respect that. I mean, theaters, again, what did I tell you when that shit was announced? They could change their minds. I mean, I think there was a really grim outlook last year or at the top of the year when Trump was still president. And we didn't know when the vaccine stuff was going to happen. The timeline got moved up. Now there's supposed to be enough vaccines available for all adults in America by the end of May. And so maybe Warner Brothers walks it back and says, you know what? This isn't going to HBO Max. It's going to be theatrical only. People have come back. We saw with A Quiet Place 2, it opened at 25 million or whatever. We're going to put In the Heights out just in theaters. So just, understand that there's flexibility here. And I don't think, I just don't think John M. Chu is going to blow up his relationship with Warner Brothers over a day and date for In the Heights. I guess that does it for the show. I've got to go hit the books for this Dan Murrell match. I'm just kidding. I'm not hitting the books. I actually have to go drop another scoop. So stay tuned. I don't know if that scoop will probably hit before this podcast goes up. We're talking. I know this podcast, it's not, if you're watching the video, it's not on Collider Extras. If you're watching it, it's probably on my YouTube page. So welcome, because I think there's going to be more that you're going to see on this YouTube page. I've got some things in the works, some things percolating. But, if you're just listening to it, please continue to listen on the Collider Extras, podcast feed. And you can still go to collider.com and get, see the article every week actually on the site. Thank you, as always, for listening, for watching. However you consume this, have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe. Get vaccinated. Wear a mask. Wash your hands. I love you. I really do.